You have to be careful about making a weird show or watching a weird show.
Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. Joined this week, as I often am, by Giles Edwards. To my left,
Hello.
below me, an avatar representing Bradley J. Cornish of Movies from Hell, and below him, a non-avatar, a very live-looking Dan Pullen, also co-host of Movies from Hell. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Good.
Thanks for having us on.
You're welcome. This is a sort of a return engagement because we were on the Movies from Hell podcast, and we really appreciate that you guys would come and bring your larger audience to our smaller audience. But it is a different audience because we specialize on YouTube, whereas you guys tend to have the traditional audio only podcast.
Correct.
Yes, which is why it's actually not an ad. This is Bradley, by the way. You can't see my lips moving, but it's not an actual representation. I am actually an avatar. That's why we do the audio broadcast.
Yeah, I've been accused in 2 different countries of being a cartoon.
You've certainly been accused on the show of being a cartoon, so by Mike Cheslick.
Well, that's high praise. I'll spin it that way.
Now, isn't there a place in the world called Cartoon? Isn't there like a country or a city called Cartoon?
Oh yeah, it's in the hands of the Toons because of R.K. Maroon's deed, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So you're cartoon and cartoon.
Oh yeah, I'm an envoy. I guess.
And I've already lost control of the show. I have to apologize that I'm blurry for some reason. I don't know what. I'm usually much sharper featured than this. But nothing I can
So
do.
the audience, he still has that chiseled jawline. It's just not showing up on screen right now.
Exactly. So what we're going to do today, we're going to run through the week's releases. I'm going to go as fast as I can through these. Then we're going to talk to our guests about their podcast, and we're going to talk about whichever of these movies catches their fancies, because I know that they have seen some of them, probably haven't seen others since they're brand new, and have apparently strong opinions about some of them. So I'll try to run through these releases real fast. First, I won't let Giles describe them as we usually do, but just pretty much say what we've got up here. Giles, I'll give you a chance to describe one image. First up, Street Trash. It's a remake of the 80s, 89, 90 movie. Well, not really a remake because it's set in the distant future of 20,050 and relocated to South Africa. It's by Ryan Kruger, who did Fried Berry and who...
Okay. Yeah, I thought the guy on the far right looked familiar.
Did you...
Oh, Fried Berry. Okay.
Did you interview him, Giles, the director?
I did not, but certainly he's in every frame of that movie, and a very recognizable actor.
We were trying to get him on, I think.
Yeah.
So this is it's a promotional picture of 6 derelicts, one holding a machete, looking at the camera, and the name Street Trash, a Ryan Kruger thing. If you remember the original Street Trash, it's about homeless people and hobos who are given rot gut liquor that melts them. Continues in this one. And so we may talk about that or we may not. We'll see what our guests like. But next up, I wanted to mention this big release, Christmas gift idea for somebody. It's called CC40. It's Criterion Collection, a collection of 40 Blu-rays, in which are their most, as I understand it, they were chosen because they were the ones that were most picked out from the Criterion closet. And
Oh,
so
okay.
what we
That's
have
cool.
here, yeah, what we have here is just all 40 titles simply. But what's really interesting about it to me is that 8 of these titles appear either on our canonically weird or apocrypha list. So that's about 20%.
Mm.
We have 8.5, Repo Man, Weekend, Night of the Hunter, which we had discussed on the Movies from Hell podcast.
Yep.
We also have Mirror, Tarkovsky's Mirror, which is a apocrypha. 3 Women and Hausu, and also Persona. So a heck of there's always a weird marketing thing with this, in that the people who'd be interested in it probably have a lot of these titles already. So
Yeah.
it's a weird marketing thing, but
But if
maybe,
they put a number on the spine, it's
yeah,
practically a guaranteed sale. I know these Criterion people.
maybe you
Right.
gift it to a young person headed off to film school or something.
Yeah, that was my thought. This seemed like a lot of the movies that I sought out when I was young, tried to find at my Blockbuster or the local video store. And if this was the selection that I had back in the day, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if we want to talk about any of those. Any of those titles are up to talk about. But now I'm going to let Giles describe this still, because it's Giles. I don't know if you two guys know this. Giles is famous for describing movie stills for people who don't have, or the blind, or who are listening on podcasts. And he likes to
Oh, I love it.
put a lot of detail into it. So he's really on the spot now. Giles, describe this still.
Well, we have a tranquil nighttime scene. We can tell from this image that this bed is near a window. We can see the moonlight softly shining in. And we see a young boy, I'm going to guess, I don't know, maybe 8 or so, with something of a bowl cut. And he's, reclining kind of peaceably. And he's situated across from a small token-esque object. It's a sort of humanoid form. Very petite, couldn't be more than a foot high or so, and it's curled up comfortably in a pose that is being mirrored by the larger young boy in question, who is lying opposite it. And the what's it that he's gazing at presently appears to be certainly not conscious. I'm loath to use the word unconscious, because that would suggest it might leave its present state. But seeing as it looks a little pickled then dried out, I have no hope whatsoever that this entity, at least in any way we'd hear, might respond to whatever the boy may be saying to it.
Could it be stone? Have you seen the movie, Giles?
I reviewed it for the big book.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
You personally know what he's talking to. All right.
Yes.
It is,
So
of
do
course,
I.
a still from The Reflecting Skin, which is being re-released by the same outfit that released it before, with not much change, but it's film movement. There is a new essay, but we are especially thankful that they retain the extra feature called Angels and Atom Bombs, because in that one, 366 Weird Movies website makes a cameo appearance. It can be
Whoa.
Oh, very cool.
and it would have been criminal to lose that extra.
Well,
Audiences would have rioted.
Yeah,
and we don't want to have to, not in this weather, maybe warmer.
So this may be one we'll come back to and talk about. But moving on, just to get through everything that's out this week, here I have selected what's just the back cover of a Blu-ray, and not much to it. It features a fireplace prominently. The log line is, "Get in the holiday spirit with this cozy, crackling fire. Warning, contains violence, adult language, and brief nudity." And this, of course, is a Blu-ray release for Adult Swim Yule Log, which you can still see for free at Adult Swim with commercials. This is a very limited edition, limited to, I think, 2,000 copies. It has a lenticular cover, which I think is the one where you turn it and it's 3D and you see it from different angles. And it has some special features, 2 audio commentaries, something called Yule Log for real this time. And
Wonder if that's a ruse and it's a second strange Yule Log.
that would be, people are going to watch it expecting something to pop up, right? So, yeah, so that can only be ordered from Vinegar Syndrome or from one of their preferred retailers who they use. But wanted to mention that for anybody. It's a beloved holiday tradition for me for 2 years to watch Adult Swim Yule Log and drink a Nurse Nutmeg.
Mm.
This one is it is a Blu-ray released by Arrow of a movie that had not previously been released, at least on physical media in the US. It features, Giles, you can describe this one a little. It's kind of cool.
All right, so we have a very happy-looking young Japanese woman with, slightly longer than shoulder-length flowing hair, a broad smile on her face, and she's holding forward, it looks like a plastic bag, like a grocery plastic bag with a knot done up, and on top of that is a cockroach, I'm guessing, who seems to be climbing its way toward the smiling woman's face. And I guess it may be worth mentioning that this woman's eyes are much more amber than I think I've ever seen anyone in person being so lucky to have. And that, in combination with the very pallid state of her skin, makes me kind of wonder about her state of livelihood as she actually, yeah, a closer inspection. It looks like she's about to open this bag. If I were to make a wager here with this cockroach that's flowing over with hands, sort of, yes. And especially that would explain the look of anticipation she very obviously has.
Okay, thank you. And this is Tomie. I'm going to pronounce it Tomie. It's probably Tomie or properly pronounced. But
In
I'm
the
gonna
song that played on the trailer, it's Tomie. Go
Tomie.
Yeah.
Okay, and it is it's a J-horror from 1998. It is based on a Junjo Ito manga with this character Tomie, who is a beautiful young girl who sort of recurs in different guises, always with the same name, and kills people, a supernatural creature. They have made apparently about 8 movies, feature-length movies based on Tomie, none of which have really made it to the United States, except there was, if you see the Netflix Junjo Ito collection they have, they among the episodes is one that features Tomie. No idea how weird this is. Was marked surrealism on IMDb, which I always like to look at, but sometimes with J-horror. And Junjo Ito certainly has he's the guy who wrote Spiral, if you guys are all familiar with
Oh, well, then sign me up for this.
So, yeah. So it's got a good pedigree.
Yeah, and a really creepy song. I watched the trailer just before we started this, and it's this strange synthetic thing going on there. So if it's as weird as the song is, then well,
there may be some girl-on-girl kissing in it too.
Oh my! Well, it is not rated.
I can't watch it then.
Well, no, I mean, look at that picture you have up there. It's like some 12-year-old kid with a pike.
Yeah, describe Describe Bradley's avatar, Josh, for people who...
That's a pair of big boxes.
Oh, okay. Well, this one,
It's the 12-year-old kid with the pipe. That's awesome.
this one we are obviously not going to attempt to have Giles describe or have anyone describe. It is a 2-for-1, a set of two thematically linked big box set releases, special edition, collector's editions of Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. And each of them come with a 4K UHD, a Blu-ray, bunch of postcards, a bunch of doodads, and each of them have a special feature. For the Dark Crystal, you get a little replica shard, and for Labyrinth, you get a glass ball with the word
Which is a
Labyrinth.
bit of a tease because you really need 3 of those to do the
Yeah.
Goblin King thing. So I guess people who like
Bradley,
that movie will have to
you
buy
know what
3.
to get me for Christmas now.
Three copies of Labyrinth.
Yeah.
I will say
Christ.
I glanced over the special features for Labyrinth, and they have a juggling tutorial on it, which I
Okay.
so, they are teaching you to juggle your glass ball. Obviously, these are big for collectors and for big fans of these movies. And I will mention also at the same time they're releasing 2 other collectible editions of this movie, which are Walmart exclusives, which are steelbooks, 4Ks of the movie. Don't come with all this other stuff, but just in the beloved steelbook format.
Oh, the sweetest book ever made is the Steelbook.
So fans of Jim Henson are in heaven, and probably going into debt.
Yeah, this is pricey.
Yeah.
Well, worth the investment.
So up
Or the-
next, this one a surprise addition to 4K UHD because it seems like a kind of small niche culty movie to make it to 4K UHD, but here it is. It is William Friedkin's Bug, starring Ashley Judd and Michael Shannon as they basically it's basically a two-hander with them going insane together in a hotel room, a pretty sleazy hotel room.
It did look very sleazy.
Yes. Giles, did you see it?
Oh, I saw the trailer, and yeah, it's yeah, it is a very of its era lineup. Ashley Judd, Michael Shannon, and Harry Connick Jr., which is a string of words I hadn't seen together for years now.
You should probably check it out.
Yeah, it's good.
We may discuss that one. I believe we had some fans. Last thing, this is so we put this last. It's kind of a nod to our dear old departed Alfred Aker, who wrote both these movies up. It's a Kino Blu-ray of a Buster Keaton double feature of 7 Chances and Sherlock Jr. 7 Chances is a movie where Buster Keaton's character will inherit $7 million if he can get married by 7 o'clock, and he is chased by 7 brides, it looks like.
Yeah, it was the silent version of Seventh Seal, right?
Well, there was a remake of 7 Chances, which I'll mention. I'll go ahead and mention now. Included as an extra on this disc is a version of 7 Chances, at least the premise, as done by the Three Stooges episode.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And Sherlock Sherlock Jr., of course, is kind of a more famous movie from very innovative and proto-surrealist, using a lot of techniques that it just pioneered a lot of visual sort of gags and tricks and techniques.
Yeah.
So that's a very historically important movie and also a somewhat weird and fun one. And there we go. So I just wanted to run through those, and now we can enter free conversation. First thing, I guess, probably a little late on letting you guys plug, but what is your next episode going to be? When will it be available, and where can people find it?
Oh, shit, Dan. Uh, gosh, what is our next? We've been it's been a hell in a handbasket lately over at the movies from hell, all over the
Yep.
place. We're
Did we release our holiday episode yet?
no,
Okay, that's our
yeah,
next
I did.
episode then.
Yeah, that is our next episode. It's but
Canadian Thanksgiving one? That was like
uh,
October.
no, it
No.
was we recorded it a few weeks ago,
Yep.
and the idea is just holiday films in general, and it was mayhem, which isn't a holiday. But yeah, it was there was a lot of films discussed, which Dan, I think it was just a trick for me to get you to have to enter like 75 movies into our watch list from hell.
Oh, oh, Bradley. You're always
Yes.
keeping me on my toes.
Yes, but we do have God, we have so many wonderful things that are in the planning stages that we've gotten that we promised to people that we are going to be doing. And it's we've also been talking to some directors, a couple of directors that do and I know you guys get into that a little bit too.
Yeah.
So we don't talk to a lot of directors. It has to be pretty messed up the movies that we talk about, and the directors that we talk to, we have to direct some pretty messed up movies as well. But they're lovely people for the most part, which is strange.
Oh yeah, they're all wonderful. We
Yeah.
so kind of our focus
Yeah.
is a little different than yours in terms of this podcast because we are always focused on the new releases stuff. So we talk to
Hmm.
people who've just made movies, whereas you guys are more, retrospective, looking at great movies
Yeah.
over
From
history
hell.
from hell.
Yeah. Our show, we mostly cover I'd say exploitation, cult, and horror films, and it's focused a lot on the 70s and 80s. We bleed over into the adjacent decades. And every once in a while we talk about new movies. It's crazy. Um, but yeah,
We talked
so
about Strange Darling.
mhm.
That was a
Yep.
good movie.
Very good movie.
Hey Dan, I looked at some notes here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do an episode on Tommy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and
Yes.
we're in and out of communication with our good friend Lisi, who's Ken Russell's wife. And we did a wonderful series with her a couple of years back where we did Decades of Russell, where she joined us with our friends to go through each 60s, 70s, 80s, and then we did a special on the Devils.
Yep.
And so I can't wait to do that because that is a film that I was obsessed with as a child. When I was Dan, how many times did I see it?
Was it 17?
14 times one
14
summer.
times.
Yeah, in quadraphonic stereo.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and then we're also going to be doing we oftentimes will do shows when people die. Yeah. So, Chris Christopherson, we've been talking to our friend Paul G about doing a fucked up Chris Christopherson double feature. Right. So whatever his two most fucked up movies are. The westerns, they're westerns in particular.
Yep.
But yeah, so I don't know. It's really it's a kind of a crazy podcast. We've been doing it for 8 years, and yeah, we're gonna keep doing it
Giles had a
until
question.
one of us dies.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh no, I was trying to remember Chris Christopherson and yeah, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia was
Yes.
what came to mind for him is just that observation there, which
I think it might be that and Butch Cat. There's a Butch
No,
Cassidy. What is it?
It's Pat Garrett and Billy the
Yeah,
Kid.
Pat Carey. Okay, and Billy Kid.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, thanks, man. I don't know what I'm talking about. But no, thank you for asking. Yeah, we love what you guys do. So this is a lot of fun for us, and we had a lot of fun when you guys were on our show as well. So I appreciate that.
It ends up as just a bunch of guys talking about movies, which is as it should be, I guess. Um, Giles, did you have any other questions? I have a question for the
No,
two.
go for it, Greg, and I'm
Yeah.
sure I'll.
My question is, how did you meet? Are you longtime friends? Did you meet online? And how did it happen?
We met in a writing group online. So Amazon used to have this site called Write On, and the idea was you would go on there, you would you'd write chapters of your book or whatever, and then people could review it and give you feedback and this and that. And Bradley's avatar one day was the Death Records logo from Phantom of the Paradise. And I was like, I know that movie. And then he and I started talking about movies, and there was a couple other folks in that group who were movie fans. So the four of us got together, and we initially had a podcast called Four Brains, One Movie. And that lasted for one episode and then one of the brains immediately left. He's like, this is horrible. And then we continued on. That's where we started having guests come on to be the fourth brain. And then our lovely co-host Frankie, she lived in Stockholm, so she used to have to get up at like 4 a.m. to record with us. So she only lasted maybe 12, 15 episodes, and she was like, "No, you know what? This is a lot of work." And then we eventually rebranded ourselves with the Movies from Hell.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That
Hey,
was
look at me
wonderful.
go.
You got it all, man. But except for the fact that we actually met at a viewing of Tomie
Right.
when I was little.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
I
How
was
old would you
very
have been?
little.
Yeah,
Yeah. I looked like that ossified fetus from Reflecting Skin.
yeah. He has a name, by the way. It's Eben the Incarnate,
Yeah.
which yeah, you know, people do silly names on these things sometimes on the Zoom things. They'll do a silly name or a silly avatar. And yeah, I was gonna call myself Eben the Incarnate, who's actually a putrefied, somewhat mummified. I guess it wouldn't be. Is it an embryo? Not an embryo. What do you call it? Fetus.
Yeah, fetus.
Yeah, fetus.
And
A
what
stillbirth, or maybe more like of a stillbirth.
it was probably a stillbirth, and I know
Yep.
there was a tradition, at least sometime probably peaked in the Victorian age, and then went a little later for the phenomenon known as the pickled punk, which could be among, one of the oddities you'd see in a traveling show, which would be such a thing, but in its, preserving liquid jar.
Mm.
Well, it would have been nice if they would have described the smell. They just they opened up like a kind of a container and they're like, oh, it stinks.
That's
But if they
probably accurate enough.
yeah, but if they would have said it has a formaldehyde smell,
Well, how old are these
then
kids?
we know it's a pickled punk.
Yeah, they were only like 8 or 9.
But then again, in that part of the world, it seems like they're probably familiar with formaldehyde.
Oh yeah, when I
Seemed pretty
was
terrible.
9, I was exposed to mercury, formaldehyde, pretty much everything.
Did you have a
Lead.
chemistry set? Because my father had a chemistry set that exposed him to a lot of neat things that he can't anymore.
Yeah, I actually did get. I would buy the chemistry sets as a kid, and I did buy it because I was a little fucking creep. I bought the formaldehyde set, which had like all kinds of weird formaldehyde animals in it. It was like $20 at like the local toy store. Yeah, it was weird. Dan, you didn't know this about me. Yeah,
It makes sense.
yeah.
Well, in case you're actually not following on, we sort of segued into a discussion of the reflecting skin.
Right.
Just see my review. I have the origins of that thing there. They find a discarded fetus stashed in the hay of a barn. So it's hard to say what it's how it got there, but
It's
that
in a
was as they found
container.
it.
Yeah, it was actually in a container of sorts, like a basket in the
Yeah,
It
hay.
almost looked like a big wasp's nest or something.
Yeah.
Like it was odd. It was definitely one of the more odd elements of a somewhat odd movie is the mystery
That's
of
somewhat
this
odd.
fetus. Yeah.
It's super odd. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird or super odd. One of those two.
Mm,
I think you guys
Yeah.
probably all seen it more recently than I have, but is what doesn't this boy whose name is something Dove, what's his name?
Oh.
Seth Dove.
Seth
It's
Dove.
named after
yeah.
Seth
Yeah,
Dove.
Seth.
Doesn't he believe that it's like a reincarnation of one of his
Yeah, Eben.
Yes.
friends? Yeah, even.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
friend Eben, who I think he saw him kidnapped by a marauding band
Oh, those
of,
guys are the creepiest people I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
of like child molesting, murdering
And
teenage toughs.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Although when he
there's
finds it with his buddy before, I guess they find it together, and they're both convinced it's an angel who's lost its wings.
hmm
It lost its wings because one of them made their mother cry. So yeah, a lot of guilt on these boys for, I guess, living their terrible life where they're doing it. So yeah.
and all this stuff, I mean, we're just it's just I guess the sort of backbone of the story is that this little kid, Seth Dove, uh, has a really bad family life and for some reason becomes obsessed with the idea that his female neighbor is a vampire. I think that's kind of the
Yes.
line that goes through the most, but there are all these odd angles to it, like the petrified fetus and his father's suicide from drinking gasoline and this gang of toughs that drive around these cornfields in big black cars and then his brother who's a famous actor whose name
Viggo
escapes me,
Viggo Mortensen, yeah, brother returns from
Vietnam.
not Vietnam. It was before Vietnam, but after World War
Korea?
II. It's when they were doing
There-
nuclear tests in the
Right.
Pacific.
So I just rewatched this, and by the way, there's a lot of really good quality streams out there of it right now. It was a little harder a few years ago, but the thing that I got from it is one of those movies where it's sort of like Dan, you talk about a lot, the unreliable narrator, where
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what it kind of reminded me of. But like every kid's an unreliable
Right.
narrator. Like on our podcast, I'm talking about weird fucking childhood, like semi-traumatic stuff that happened all the time. But it's like, when you sit down and you write it, it's like, yeah, did some of this shit really happen? And did it happen in this particular way? So it's almost like this kid was writing down, all the shit that happened, and like maybe somebody found his little diary, and it's like, whoa, look at all this crazy stuff. And it's fucking Canadian on top of it, which
Oh,
Yeah.
automatically makes it weird. The Canadians make weird ass movies, and I love the weird Canadian movies, like Pins, one of my favorite. But it also reminded me a little bit of Leolo, which is also
Oh,
a
shit. Yeah.
great Canadian movie about a kind of an unreliable narrator about weird, family life from a kid who's about this age.
Yeah.
Yeah, except there's no cool catchphrase in this movie. Like Leolo, after I watched it, my wife and I would go, "My name is Leolo, Leolo Tony." We'd do that for years until it got really annoying. But there are no catchphrases.
That is
No.
true. It is really just a kind of escalating tragedy.
Yeah.
As I
Catchphrase.
brought this up with one of you.
I do want to mention, so we have about 2 minutes left in this session. We're going to take a little break and come
Okay.
back and talk about maybe a few other movies and maybe some movies from hell stuff, if you guys are up for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's
Okay.
do it, man. Thanks for talking about this movie. It's a favorite.
We can talk some more about it. More to say when we come back.
All right.
Intermission
There's
time.
the old-timey intermission card. Thank you, Kyle.
All right. Well, we will be back soon. Hello, and we're back. And Bradley has changed. Intermission time's good. Bradley has changed avatars into just kind of a generic locked folder type thing. So, but Dan still looks the same, and Giles's bow tie is the same, and I'm still extra blurry, and I have a glass of wine.
Nice.
Before we get back to talking about the movies, I wanted to give you guys some more prompting on promoting yourself and ask where is the best place for people to follow you guys, what you're up to? Is it yourmovies.com, movesfromhell.com, Twitter, some other place?
It's probably Twitter, and now Bradley has made the move to Blue Sky.
Mhm.
And what's our handle over there, Bradley?
Same thing. 26 MFH pod and at Blue Sky, whatever, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it actually hasn't been that bad. Yeah, I think not going to get into it, but there are reasons why I think there's been a bit of an exodus over there, and recently, and I bet we've had something over there for a while, but just really it was like crickets, and then all of a sudden, like all of our pals came over there, and yeah, so it almost feels like old Twitter a little bit, like from about 8 years ago, where it's like fun and you don't have people threatening your life for posting pictures about hummus and stuff like that. Yeah.
I guess that brings a question to mind. I understand the MFH pod. What's up with 26?
Oh, okay. So initially, when we made the move from Four Brains, One Movie, we started as 26 Movies from Hell, and it was an alphabetical themed podcast. So we would start at A, and we would go through to Z. And after attempting that, I think twice, we're like, this is hard and long and not in, the general good way. And we were just like, now it's just Movies from Hell, and we can talk about whatever we want. Every once in a while, we'll bring back the alphabetical format, which generally what we'll do is we'll put 3 or 4 movies out. We'll put 4 movies out on a poll on Twitter, and people will vote on which one they want us to cover, and we will feature that movie, and we'll generally talk about the other couple ones.
I also noticed, is this still active? Do you guys have a Patreon? And
oh yeah, we do have a Patreon.
I forget sometimes that we do. Yes. And it helps out a little bit, covering Zoom costs and stuff like that, and it makes it slightly less sad that we're just not pouring money out, but it's not exactly a profitable podcasting. It's not exactly, yeah. I would say it's a labor of love, but it's more of it's more psychological than that.
Compulsive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we understand that entirely. And are there any perks for joining the Patreon?
You get to learn the virtues of patience. And because it takes a very long time for us to actually post anything worthwhile on there. It's like mostly people do it because they donate because they feel sorry for us.
Yeah.
I'm the worst advertiser.
We got to get in on that scam. I mean, set up a Patreon, Giles.
I'm on it, boss. Let's see, patreon.com.
Actually, one thing we are going to do, which, hey, Dan, this is kind of a soft announcement, right? because it's a big deal in the podcasting world what we do. But yeah, gonna go free with the Patreon.
Yep.
So now what they allow you to make your Patreon free, and people that still donate, people that want to support what you do, but it doesn't have like a roadblock, you know, but like Dan's nudes can be seen by everybody now,
Yep.
not just the people who pay $2 a month,
Ooh.
which is way overpriced, by the way,
Yeah.
for Dan's nudes. Yeah.
$2 a month.
Yeah, but it's really cool. You can do that now. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Oh, all right. Well, that's cool. I'll try to put a link to that up along with
Thank
the
you.
other links
Thank you very much.
we put up. But let's get back. I think Dan said he wasn't done talking about Reflecting Skin.
Yeah,
We got some more
Reflecting
coming.
Skin, it's a movie that for me is a lot like my experience with The Virgin Suicides, in that I watched it the first time and I was like, it's okay. And then I guess I just kept thinking about it and it like lived in my head, and without realizing it, I grew to love it. And then when I went back, I watched it this week. I'm like, oh God, this is such a great movie. I'm so glad I'm watching it again. And I went to log it on my Letterboxd, and I had initially given it like a 5 or a 6,
Yeah.
something like ridiculously low for how good it is.
Oh, you're a
So
real dick on your
yeah,
letterbox with some of the stuff you do.
Bradley hates my Letterboxd. But anyway, but one of the movies that it reminded me of, in some ways, was The Wanderers, because it has this sort of magical realism or surreal, like a grounded surrealism.
Right.
And like those guys driving around in that black Cadillac reminded me of the Ducky Boys, because there's like no explanation for where they come from. They always seem to come at the exact right time, and it's almost like a Four Horsemen type
Mm.
type thing.
Oh,
They
yeah.
they come, over the horizon, and there's dust billowing in, and they just sort of like swoop by and grab a victim, and then there's another death. So it it's it's a movie that has this really interesting tone. It's very, very dense, maybe even obtuse in some ways, but it makes you think. And like with me, I think it's something that will grow on you over time, and you can revisit it and find more depth and meaning to it.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous too.
Oh, very, yes, very.
Yeah.
Um, I have that. I identify with what you say about going back to an old movie, watching a movie and going back and seeing what I rated it 5 or 6 stars, and now I think it's a classic.
Yeah.
Something I've noticed though is that nearly every movie gets better if you watch it twice. It's just that most movies don't get you interested enough on the first
Mm,
watch to encourage
Mm.
that second watch. But you always notice other things, and you notice more about how it's constructed. So generally, the more you watch a movie, the more you get to like it.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think if a movie brings you back, to it, it's interesting enough where you watch it again, then you're probably like in the back of your head saying, "Oh, there's something more to like about this movie," I think. And occasionally you're like, "Oh yeah, this is a piece of shit." But yeah, but this one I kind of had the same experience as Dan. Like I did like it for like segments of it.
Mhm.
Is kind of it has little vignettes of weirdness, that I like it opens with and this is hey, there's like some unpleasantries to animals, which is like another tie-in with Leolo a little
Right.
bit. But it opens with little kids blowing up a frog with air and then like shooting it, with a slingshot, and it explodes. And all over the vampire lady, like just cool little things like that, So I watched it for that, and then like this last time I watched it, and it was a really good stream, really big screen, and I was like Wow, this is really engaging, and it's also very beautiful too. A lot of the imagery was really
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah, so I'm glad I went back to it.
Okay. Any final comments, or should we move on to a different movie?
I think moving on to a different movie, maybe.
Yeah.
What would you like to discuss out of this? First off, let's see what you've seen. Did you see the original Street Trash?
I did.
I've seen the original Street Trash.
You
I
think it's worthy of a remake or a reimagining?
I didn't watch it again after what I just said. Yes.
um it it's not unworthy. It's a little surprising. Street Trash is, I would say, like a deep cut in the cult vernacular. Um but I think it is a movie that has a lot of love. I'm not a huge fan, so having a remake uh isn't doing anything for me, but I think there's
Yeah.
definitely an audience for it.
Did you guys see Fried Berry? And does the fact that it's from the guy that did Fried Berry make it more interesting as a project?
I've not
Yeah,
seen Fredberry.
I've seen it. It's pretty fun. And yeah, Fried Berry is one of those movies where I saw it once as well. It's kind of like uh it's a really fun to watch, but you might not want to go back to it, unless you're like super into it. Sorry, Fried Berry. I liked your movie, but it's like that's all I gotta say. Sorry.
The interesting director, though, and not a lot of people from South Africa making these type of films. Um,
Oh, definitely.
yeah. And the guy who plays Fried Berry is also in uh, Street Trash. Is Gary Green or something like that? He's
Yeah,
very
he's great.
unique looking individual. Have you guys seen the Adult Swim Yule Log?
I
I
never have.
Mm,
Yeah, I think I might have caught a little bit of it at one point.
mm.
Yeah.
Gets a strong recommendation from me.
Okay.
Really?
And
Okay, I will watch it for
it's
sure.
it is free with advertisements on the Adult Swim channel. Um, the premise is you're watching, they actually showed it on like Christmas Eve with no explanation. It was just a Yule log came up. And so you're watching this Yule log and a little Christmas song. And about 3 minutes in, there comes some dialogue in the background and the sound of a vacuum cleaner. And then uh, things start happening, and they find a way to move the camera out so you can see a little bit
Okay.
more. And then it turns into just a really crazy movie where it is at times like a legitimate horror, but it's a slasher movie and a UFO movie and a movie about a killer log and a movie about a very strange Southern gentleman who lives inside the fireplace. And then there are flashbacks to slavery days, and it's just all over the place. It's really wild, and I only wish I had stumbled on it accidentally and not known what was going on, because I would have
Yeah.
been
All
surprised.
right. You've sold me on this because Adult Swim does have some really great, like, the what's that, Too Many Cooks,
That's
things
the
like
guy,
that.
same director.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm on board. I'm all about the Yule log now.
And he's also the guy who did, if you saw Mandy, which I imagine you probably did, he did the Cheddar Goblin sequences for Mandy.
Gorgeous.
So you know what kind of sense of humor you're dealing with here.
All right. Yeah, I'm all in.
Okay. So I'm sure nobody knows anything about Tomie. Am I correct or am I wrong, dude?
Uh, I've
No.
I've checked a few of them out a little bit. I guess the original one was 88, and then they didn't pick it up again until later. But yeah, I didn't. I didn't. I watched. I think I watched one once.
Mm.
Yeah, but I am familiar with it, but not super familiar. I guess I shouldn't even have said anything because I'm not qualified.
Yeah, I had not heard about it, and just before the episode, I kind of looked into it, and like you'd said, there's uh a bunch of sequels. So it was one of those things I was actually a little bit surprised, given the popularity of J horror, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that it hadn't come over here until now. So I definitely want to take a look. Just the imagery that I saw definitely looked interesting.
Yeah, I actually have it in my shopping cart right now. Once you
Oh,
mentioned it was from the Uzumaki guy, a good friend of mine got me this edition of that manga, and it's got all kinds of neat things going on. And I read this before I saw the 2004 or 8 movie adaptation, which I felt was a pretty good kind of summary version of the thick amount of events that go on in this unfashionable small city in Japan. So yeah, I'm pretty seized with this. I haven't seen it though.
okay. Um, so these movies,
Yes.
sure, I'm sure we've all seen. I imagine there's some kind of story here that's being hinted at about these movies that we probably need some explanation of.
I'm a huge fan of children's movies. Of fantasy movies and things like that. And these in particular were, prime time from my childhood, growing up watching HBO, watching The Dark Crystal probably
Mhm.
100 times easily. And Bradley has a general disdain for movies of this ilk. So we are constantly, it's our little joke. We talk about The Dark Crystal and Willow and Pete's Dragon, and Bradley just makes fun of all these things and makes fun of me for liking them.
I'm more of a fan of one of those than the others. Willow, I certainly remember enjoying as a child, though I don't suspect I'd enjoy it as much now. Pete's Dragon, I tried to watch that, and as a kid, didn't really like the dragon, which was a major setback for enjoying the film about
Yep.
that dragon. But Dark Crystal is something I watched a whole lot
Yeah.
growing up, and it's the kind of thing that I'm sure I'd appreciate it now and in a different way, but I still have that sort of magical memory of that movie experience that I'm reluctant to, disturb, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Dark Crystal, I do have, nostalgia for all these things, and I've this love, and that'll never go away. But when I do rewatch these things, I can see the cracks in them, and the how some of these aren't quite as good as my memory might hold. But the Dark Crystal is it is some of the most unbelievable filmmaking and
Mm.
and production that you will ever see. Just as you're watching it, just like the establishing shots are so incredible, are so dense, and they didn't cheap on them at all with like too many mats and things like this. There, everything is constructed, everything
Yeah.
is like it looks organic and real, and there's little birds and little creatures, off in the side of the frame that, someone is puppeteering, and you don't need to have any of these things, but they made them, and they they just did such an incredible job. In some ways, I think this is maybe, as far as fantasy goes, like the greatest production of all time.
Did you see the TV, the Netflix prequel?
Yes, I did. I thought it was
Okay.
very, very good.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I got that back Oh wow, 5 years ago now. Jeez.
Yep.
Which, yeah, it's a pity. Yeah, that's one of the real pities. There are plenty of pities in life about, oh, not continuing this, that, or the other. But this one was like they just needed one more prequel series, and we'd have a nice, we'd have the whole saga. Except
Yeah.
the next series in the chain of events would basically be one long form genocide of the Gelflings because they set it
Yeah.
up to right before that.
Right.
What the fuck's a gelfling?
See, that's what I get. That's
I think when I described the movie, I described it as an attempt to crossbreed one of Tolkien's elves with one of the Planet of the Apes chimps.
oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
That's the look, yeah.
That sounds pretty hot, actually.
Yeah, well, maybe you should reconsider your aversion there. Brent.
Yeah, Bradley, you should watch The Dark Crystal. Yeah.
I've seen the Dark Crystal. It was actually that I like that one better than Labyrinth. And
Oh yeah.
fucking, I don't know who the fuck brought. Sorry for my cursing, but who the fuck brought up Pete's Dragon for Christ's sakes? I always tease Dan about that one.
Pete's Dragon was a mistake. I, on the other hand, prefer Labyrinth,
Oh.
which and I'm really not at all in the target market, and I wasn't when I saw it.
The target market.
I was like 17 or 18 when I saw it, and 17-year-old male. I went because of David Bowie. I was really
Yeah.
into Bowie at the time.
No, he's
very good in it.
I saw
The whole thing is that's so cool about it is they wouldn't do this today. The sexual tension between like 40-year-old David Bowie and a teenage girl,
Jennifer Connelly, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was very daring. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Dark Crystal as long ago as I can remember, but the first Bowie movie I saw was The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Mm.
And so seeing, obviously Jareth the Goblin King is a fantastic bit of cultural memory for all of us to enjoy in whatever way we may prefer. But I remember it's like, oh, he was in a very serious movie and did very serious things and was incredibly good. And so that was like, this is Bowie the actor. And then I say, oh, this is also Bowie the actor. And obviously
Yeah.
anyone who can, live up alongside Muppets, they've got there's someone special, that's Michael Caine, that's Rocky Horror Picture Show guy.
Tim Curry.
Yeah, Tim Curry and
Yep.
Muppet Treasure Island. It's like, okay, these people, if you can do that, you have your own center of gravity as a performer.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was
So,
weird to go
Greg,
from Man Who Fell to Earth to Labyrinth.
Yeah. You mentioned the relationship between Bowie's character and Jennifer Connelly, and actually, if I could, I'm going to use this as a segue to Bug because
okay.
a long time ago, I was on a podcast with our friend Danny Ryan. I don't know if you guys know her. I think she writes now for Slash Films, but we did a podcast on Labyrinth, and I was expecting to just joke around about Bowie's codpiece for 45 minutes, but she likened it to the way in which vulnerable people can be manipulated by a partner. And I'm like, oh geez, man, this is like heady stuff. I never even really thought about this.
Oh man, I'm bummed out now even just thinking about it.
And so in watching Bug and knowing that we could
Right.
potentially talk about both these movies, I saw a nice parallel. You can make a great asshole boyfriend double feature out of Bug and Labyrinth, because both Ashley Judd's character in Bug is very similar. She is vulnerable. She had lost a child. She's got this abusive boyfriend, and Michael Shannon comes into her life, and he seems like a nice guy, seems pretty cool, but then he takes her down this very, very dark road that if she hadn't experienced these past traumas, maybe she would have been able to take a different look at him. And
Well, I also found it kind of analogous to a little bit to current state, what's happening right now in the world a little bit,
mhm.
where there are folks who are being manipulated
Yeah.
and, kind of baby stepped into like just psychotic thinking,
Uh-huh.
and not speaking about anything specifically, but yeah, it's a very good movie for that reason. Really, the movie really isn't like people have complained it really isn't about much, which it kind of isn't in a way. I mean, it's more of a stage play. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily plot driven. There's a couple little plot pieces to it, but uh for me, it's just more of like a human nature,
Hmm.
sort of exploration. And also, it's great schizophrenia movie,
Hmm.
which
Yes.
I'm a big fan of those movies, like clean shaven.
Yeah.
It would like kill somebody if you made them watch those back to back, probably. Especially in 4K. I mean, like Bug in 4K. Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a really
Yeah. That's a lot of
intense,
tinfoil.
like yeah, that's a lot of in your face detail.
This was the first time I ever saw Michael Shannon. He was new,
Really,
yeah, in Bug, and
holy shit,
then so yeah.
it's a
The
quite a performance.
next one I saw Shannon. He also played kind of a schizophrenic character. I forget the name of that one.
Was it Take Shelter?
Yeah, Take Shelter was it?
Yeah,
He was
he's brilliant
immediately
in that.
typecast in my mind as the crazy guy. So,
Mm.
Yeah, I think one of my first things I noted him in was my son, what have you done? Which is a
other crazy.
neat little Herzog movie
Hmm.
where Michael Shannon is doing Michael Shannon things to the extent that, oh, it also has Willem Dafoe and Udo Kier, and they're coming across as two of the most normal people you'll ever meet.
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch that one. Okay.
Yeah, he's also in The Runaways, and he plays a very good Kim Fowley, which
Mhm.
Kim Fowley is a frightening creature, period. And Shannon's portrayal of him was pretty good. Yeah.
And he originated the role on the stage play of Bug. So I
Yes.
think that's why it was so good.
Oh, I
Hmm.
didn't know that. Yeah. So I didn't even know it was a fucking stage play.
Hmm.
Shows how much
And that's
I
funny
know.
because you had mentioned it that it seemed like a
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
How super intelligent I am. I can tell if something is that's a stage play.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny.
Oh,
Anyways.
yeah, and looking at his Mike Shannon, he his first feature theatrical release film, he shows up in Groundhog Day.
Yes, as the WrestleMania kid.
Wow.
As the little groundhog.
Good start. Good start.
Yeah.
So you can
So
see
the
my timer, by the way, just so. Can
what's
everybody
that?
see the timer?
I do
Yes.
see the
Okay.
timer. What the
So
hell
that,
is that? Like my expiration date? Like I will
yeah, yeah,
die when that
that's how
hits
much time you
zero.
have left. That's how much time we have left in this session. So
Okay.
Okay.
One thing I did want to bring up, the Criterion
yes.
thing, the Night of the Hunter. I got to see it. That was on the list there. It's
Right.
one of my favorite movies. But then I saw it on the big screen. It's not the big screen, like there's only one, a large screen at a theater in Portland. Is like a kind of what appeared to be a shitty little theater, little independent theater, and kind of a grungy little theater. And I was like, it's gonna be a terrible, like really small screen. I went in there, it's gigantic. And I got to see Night of the Hunter finally on this massive screen, and it is such an amazing movie. And it's one of those movies where Dan Cinechill,
Oh,
that's trademarked.
Mm.
But the Cinechill I got multiple times during this, and I've seen the movie so many times.
Mm.
And there's like the one scene where I think they're on the water. I love that whole sequence, but
yeah.
the sequence of sequences. But the scene where they're on the water and the kind of the pussy willows kind of do this magical thing. I was like, I almost had convulsions. I had cinema convulsions,
Uh,
cinevulsions.
And I
But it's
presume
a Beautiful, beautiful movie, and it's one of those things. It's a top 10 movie going experience for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can imagine. Was it at 4K restoration?
It was. I think so. I think it was a Criterion,
Yeah,
but
Janice.
yeah, and it was. But it was from a. It was pretty old. The transfers was done. It's a well-loved movie, so it was a while ago. It was like '07 or something like that, or 2014. So I don't know if it was a 4K.
Hmm.
Um, I think a movie like that, when the 4K is just a really good transfer, a clean transfer, I guess it would show well. I don't really like movies that are shot in 4K that are 4K necessarily, like digital to digital, but this you got to see that there's really just beautiful grain. And Shelley Winters, holy shit. I walked out of that saying, with the exception of the Peach Dragon, she's might be my favorite actress. Yeah. Sorry, Dan. Any
Love it.
chance I get.
Well, I
Yeah,
presume
but
you're going to talk
she's a
about
wonderful,
this at
wonderful
length
actress.
on your Christmas special because I didn't see this movie until last year or so for the first time ever,
Night of the Hunter? Really?
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, and it's a Christmas movie, so it's you can talk about it again for that thing that's coming up.
Mm.
I would
It,
have seen it
it
sooner.
it's also one of those things where, like, if I had a time machine, there's a lot of shit I do. But one
Mm.
of the things I do is go back in time and be work my ass off to be a big timey movie producer.
And then
So
screw
when
up Night of the Hunter again.
yeah, when Charles Lawton, when everybody is giving him shit, I would say, you know what, Chuck, I'm gonna support you and finance anything you want to make because I believe in you. Because it's the fact that he only did the one film, which it's famous for that. It's like sometimes with movies, you'll bring them up like on Twitter or something like that, and I'll get like tons of comments like, this was his only movie. It's like lots of people will be like, that's the one tidbit, but truly, the man's a fucking genius, anyways. What's
Yeah, he
the
was a major actor for most of his
Oh
career,
yeah.
which is
yeah,
worth
and
worth
there's certain.
mentioning.
Yes, and what's the movie that we saw when we were watching the 1932 films? Was it the
Oh, Rue
was it
Morgue, right? Or no, not Rue Morgue.
was it the Moreau?
Yeah, Leonard Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, yeah, where he is so good in that, and he does he gets slapped so hard in that is it's I just wanted to bring that up. Hey Dan, I think after we leave these fine gentlemen, I think I might post a little clip of that online
Okay.
on Blue Sky.
Oh yeah, I do
Yeah.
recommend. They put up some great clips. What was the one today? It was a comparison of Showgirls and
Oh
Christmas.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
A
yeah,
Christmas
Christmas
Story.
movie story.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a Bradley classic.
that's a classic. That's one I re-up. I did that first time maybe like 2018 or something like that, and every year I bring that one back. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, it deserves it. That's a
Interesting
classic.
processing note on Blue Sky. It's got tagged by the moderators for content, whereas on the other side it didn't.
Well, that's what happens on Blue Sky, and I kind of like it. You got to go in
Uh,
and you got to turn off you got to make it adult friendly, which it's not really, but everything I post gets tagged. Everything. Yeah,
Oh,
and there's no nudity, nothing. Just a stripper and a kid licking a pole,
yeah,
and
bold
no,
licking, nothing,
nothing, just nothing.
nothing suggestive at all. Giles,
Yes.
why don't you see if you can squeeze in the last question?
All right. Well, we got two people here and we
Minute.
got a couple minutes. We like
Got
to
one
wrap up
minute.
each of our interviews, although this has been more of a conversation, but each of our interviews with a question for our victims. What's your hometown? And can you recommend a restaurant there?
Oh, okay. My hometown is Naugatuck, Connecticut. Um, and the restaurant I would recommend there is called Maples. and it is just it's kind of a diner. It's family run. It's been been there since like 1982, and it's just really good food and a nice homey atmosphere.
And it's right on the turnpike, I see, in Middlebury. Very good.
Yep.
There ain't nothing in Colorado. I mean, it's I'm trying to think of God. I've gone to some really shitty restaurants lately too. I'm trying to think of something. I'm a little bitch when it comes to food. I'm terrible. Okay, Naugatuck. I grew up in the city of Orange in California.
Okay.
And even though it was weird and it came in bizarre cylindrical scoops, thrifty ice cream. So I don't know if you ever went to the Greg. I'm not making any judgments here, but you look like you might be in the same age range as myself. And
that's a damn calumny.
And
so,
a bombshell to end this on, too.
We still have time, but go
I
ahead.
got time. Okay.
Yeah, but thrifty
No, I
ice
see
cream,
2 timers,
delicious. Go back in time and do that. I'll do that and the Charles Lawton thing when I go back in time. Get some more of that ice cream. That's all I got.
Okay. And I'd invest in Bitcoin.
Don't encourage it, Greg. Don't encourage it.
No.
We will be wrapping up. We do have less than a minute. I gave us a little time, but thank you so much for Dan Pullen and Bradley Kornish. And we have outro music. Oh, it's
Wow.
the outro music is gone already. But thanks, guys. We're gonna put up links to Movies from Hell and your Patreon and whatever else.
Thank you.
I wish I would have heard that music earlier when I was doing my calisthenics.
And maybe we'll do some more host swapping sometime.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
You guys were awesome.
It's a lot of fun always. These are fun conversations. So thank you guys for coming on. And that's all, folks. Like and subscribe and so forth as we now ask you to do. Thanks and talk.
Take care, you lovely people.
No
Good
show
night.
next week for Thanksgiving, and we'll be back week after. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Weird. Yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Weird.